Mhm. Yo, 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 what it do? What it do? It's your boy Yellow the Poet, and I am here with the young Shanti Hershenson. It is awesome to see that such a young lady started out at the age of 12, becoming an author. She was writing and, oh my goodness, has written 22 books. That is amazing for such a young lady. Awesome, awesome. Well, we definitely welcome you here to YTP Entertainment. It is a pleasure to have you, and definitely thank you for showing up for the show. Many
Thank you
blessings.
so much. Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So please, Miss Shanti Hershenson, I'm sorry, can
No,
you
you're fine.
please enlighten us? Tell us some of the things that you do that you're doing right now.
Yes, of course. So I'm a teenage author. As you mentioned, I've been publishing books since I was 12 years old. I have to say, it's probably just writing is one of my favorite things, and it's always been one of my favorite things. And as I got older, I started to realize that this is something I wanted to do as a career. However, I didn't think it was something I could do until I was like an adult. And then the pandemic hit, and I was stuck at home, and this was how I ended up expressing my emotions and my thoughts. And it's been a really rocky road. I published my first book, I guess, around 3 years ago now,
Mhm.
and it's just been something that's like I can't express how cool it is. Um, but yeah, so I've written first off, I've written 22 books and 12 of those have been published, but book 13 comes out on March 25th.
Awesome.
Recently I've started doing some book signings and in-person events. I did my first like book signing in April of 2022, and then my first actual in-person solo event in June of 2022.
Awesome.
And I'm really trying to find new ways to expand my career and get to this point where like all my childhood dreams are starting to come true. I mean, I think they already are.
That is awesome. That is so wonderful. So, how supportive are your parents in your endeavors?
They're definitely really supportive. I typically don't need help with much. I've ended up like just like googling a lot of things about like publishing and marketing and doing my own research. But if I need help with something or if I need them to give permission for me to like do a book signing or something, they're definitely there and
Awesome.
they're very supportive.
That is awesome. I love that. I love that. That is so awesome. So, what inspired you to start writing your second book, and what was your second book about?
So that's a good question. So it's hard to explain. The timeline's really strange. So like I had these two published novellas that I wrote with a friend, like right before, like in the days before we went on lockdown. And then my first novel I wrote during lockdown. So I
Okay.
kind of consider that my first book.
Okay.
So my second book would be that's also kind of strange. So my first novel, Biomlock, it was split into three different novels. So the first one is out, but those other two aren't out. So
Uh,
I guess my second like completely different project would be the Chronicles of Zyle Delane series, which I began writing when I was in the seventh grade. And I finished all three books over the summer between seventh and eighth grade. However, I did write like a bonus novel, and I ended up writing this crossover between Zyle and Biomlock. But the Zyle Delane series, it was very different from Biomlock because just for context, Biomlock is this
right.
alien invasion series, and then Zyle is this like ghostly horror series. And they're in some ways they are similar. I think they had some similar story themes. But Zyle follows this 10-year-old boy named Aaron Harth, and Aaron starts he first off he has this encounter with this strange girl on
Uh,
the property of this abandoned mansion. And then since then, all these strange things begin to happen to him that make him question his reality and what is actually going on. It's a pretty exciting series. I'd say it's not my favorite just because I wrote it when I was in seventh grade, so I definitely prefer my newer work. But it is one of my most popular books, and it did really bridge the way for a lot of new projects and ideas and opportunities.
That is awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm so happy. Now, I was also reading that you dabbled into my arena, which is poetry. I love poetry. I love it. So, what inspired you to write poetry?
So I began more seriously writing poetry when I was in the sixth grade. This is also actually pre-lockdown. So like before my writing career. And the first, like, really, I'd say it wasn't a very good poem, but it was like the first spoken word poem I ever wrote, and it was for the school project.
Mhm.
And we had these like two really cool guys come in and they taught us about poetry and they did some performances for us, and then we had to write a poem. And my poem, it originally started as a poem about Beyblades, which were my favorite. It was like my favorite TV show and like game at the
Yes.
time. And
Okay.
then it went on to talk about like bullying and like bullying that I'd gone through for being like different than my classmates and for having different interests.
Hmm.
And by the end of it, it was very much more an anti-bullying poem, but it still had those themes about Beyblades. And I performed it for my school. And as I was writing and working on and like revising this poem, I
Hmm.
got bullied really, really, really badly. And it was this really horrible, terrifying experience of mine. And
Hmm.
I ended up pouring a lot of these emotions into this poem.
Hmm.
And one of the scariest things I ever had to do was perform it in front of my school, including that person that really, really hurt me.
Oh, wow.
And that really, it gave me some power momentarily, but
Hmm.
it also kind of, I don't know, I don't really like that poem, but it really bridged the way to let me write more poems. And anytime I was feeling upset about bullying, I would write poems. And
Right.
another important thing to mention is that my school and their outlook on bullying was really just not it.
Hmm.
They basically told me, and the things that I came to them about were really, really serious, horrible things that I don't really think I'm even able to mention.
Okay.
And their response was, it's just middle school, it happens all the time, you know,
Wow.
like get used to it. Not
Wow.
really get used to it, but like it's just middle school, it happens all the time, and good kids make bad mistakes, just make bad choices, you know? So that I was so angry. I kind of turned into this like I feel like I turned into the poster child of bullying at my school, in which people would come to me and say, like, hey, I got bullied. And I would just continue to write my poems about bullying. Anytime there was a school project and we had to write a poem or we had to write something, I would try to do it about bullying and the changes that needed to be made. And
Mm.
that led me to another poem of mine, which was Needles and Thorns.
Oh, wow.
I that was a That's probably one of the best poems I've ever written. I still try to perform it at open mic nights to this day, even though I wrote it when I was in seventh grade.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't it the first poem I wrote, the one that was about Beyblades, has a more lighter tone. This poem is dark, it's hopeless, but
Mhm.
it's also it really and it probably angered my school administration a little because it was very honest and
So
very
it really
just
gets the message
angry.
across. That's
Yeah.
cool. I like that. I like that. So give us a little bit of it if you can. We're ready.
I can probably try to do the whole thing. It's only like a minute long.
That's fine.
I can't guarantee that I'm not gonna mess up.
It's fine. No problem. Promise you, you're not being judged here.
Okay, here we go. These people don't listen. No, they refuse to hear my cries for help. They were suffocated in fear. We're drowned with work, a transition that hurts, but instead to care for others, it's nowhere to be found. It's been going on all my life, but school changes, it transforms. From conflict to hatred, from telling to dying. I see people crying, and the things they say, it sticks to me like the needles of a cactus. But maybe things are more horrifying than they seem, and it all turns into a bad dream. And who said it's just middle school? Because if it all is, I don't want any part of this. It's a story intertwined as they say it's all awful, something from the movies until it's all real. They say it's something that happens, regular or not. When does one thing turn from normal into a threat to our lives? And the things they say, it sticks to me. Wait, like the needles of a cactus. And wait, hold on. Maybe things are more horrifying than they seem, and it all seems like a bad dream. I don't know the whole thing anymore, but it's something like that. I forgot
It's
the
a,
ending. There's a part like a stanza that I typically leave out, and then I included it. But yeah,
uh,
that's basically the poem.
so no, that is look, hey, you get the poet applause. Definitely, I like that. That is definitely it definitely conveys a message to let people know that bullying is not a good thing. When I was younger, I actually went through some phases for bullying. I was in elementary school, and there were two guys that would try and jump me, and it took a while because I was afraid. It took a while for me to actually get into the position to where I fought back. And after I started fighting back, that's when they would actually leave me alone. But then I transferred from one school to another school. It was constant moving back and forth because my parents were going through a divorce. So after I got to another school, then it all started all over again. So each school that I went to, I went through that same phase, and it's no fun. It's definitely no fun going through bullying. But
Yeah.
definitely, the more we talk about it, the better we feel. We're releasing that negative energy from our body. So it's definitely a plus. It's a plus. And I definitely commend you and admire you taking the time out to actually join that. That's a blessing, definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. So, Miss Shanti, what are some of your new and upcoming projects?
So, I have a book coming out in almost 5 days now, and
Oh,
that book is The Bane of Angel Fall Academy. I'd say it's the best book I've ever written. I didn't always think that. It wasn't until other people started telling me, like, oh my gosh, this book's actually really good, that I really started seeing, like, oh yeah, this is actually a big improvement.
mhm,
This book, before I explain the plot, I must say, it was the most complicated book I've ever had to write. I had several different plot lines going on and like things and like character arcs I really had to tie together by the end of the book. And
mhm.
I had this like impossible villain that I needed to be. And I really felt like I almost had to get to the level of characters and be like, okay, how are we going to do this? And there were a lot of moments when I thought, this book isn't going to work. I need to stop writing this. Like, what even is this?
Yeah.
And I just thought it was horrible. And so once I finished that first draft, I left it aside for a few months. And it actually wasn't until I sent a chapter to one of my friends and he was like, "Oh, this is really good." That I was like, "Yeah, maybe."
Mhm.
Um, and then I finally, began editing and then my editor looked over it and I was like, "Oh, wait, this is actually like I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would." And there's not even as much because I thought I was gonna have to rewrite the entire book. I was like, "I don't like this." And I ended up actually not having to rewrite anything major.
Mhm.
And I now it's up for pre-order. It comes out. I have like it's everything set, so I'm feeling okay about it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a interesting book.
Awesome, awesome. So, would you recommend the poetry company that you're using? Are you doing self-publishing, or are you actually using a company that does most of the work for you? How are you doing that?
So I self-publish in Kindle Direct Publishing, meaning with Kindle Direct Publishing, meaning I do have to do like most of the work. I
Yes.
do hire cover designers. I'd say I do a variety of cover designers just because I like experiencing like these new designs. I like talking to new people and going through new processes and
Mhm.
also like seeing all of these new covers and seeing what all these designers have to offer.
Mhm.
But for the most part, it can be a scary process, especially on my own. I do all my own marketing, which has probably been the biggest challenge, but it's also a really great learning experience.
It definitely is. That is definitely true. I do all my own marketing too for my book, so I'm with you. I totally understand. So I was looking at your site and it says you don't want, I mean, you won't know her name. So it's a haunting novel. It's told in poetry. So tell us more about that one.
So You Won't Know Her Name was like the how do I explain it? So I wrote that just for starters, I wrote that book between the summer of seventh and eighth grade. That was after I'd written Needles and Thorns. That was at a period of my life when I was just terrified all around
Mhm.
because the last time I'd been in person at school was sixth grade. And of course, sixth grade was a really, really horrifying experience for me. And I hadn't seen some of these people in like almost 2 years, and I didn't know like what to do.
Okay.
I every day I was like counting down the days until it was time to go back to school.
Oh wow.
And I was just met with this like pure like dread. I
Mhm.
was just like, what am I gonna do? And I was also like, well, people need to know my story. I don't want to go back and act like nothing happened. I don't want to go back and pretend like everything is fine in this school and
Yes.
that like all these things didn't happen. And my way to do that, because of course there's only so much I can share within my school without getting in trouble and only really so much I can do. I
Mhm.
did the one thing that they didn't really have any power of and over, and I wrote a book.
Oh,
And it's around 200 pages. It's a novel told in poetry. And part of the reason why I wrote it as well was just because I wanted to get the story off my chest. I just wanted to throw it on Amazon and make one marketing graphic and leave it be, maybe make it some way to promote Biounlock because that was going to be my debut novel when that came out. And immediately, I just couldn't do that. On the first day, it sold more books than any other book of mine at the time. I ended up creating my TikTok account because of it. And ultimately, very quickly, actually, literally in like a few days, it became my most popular book. That was the one that people wanted to talk about. That was the one that like did just very well among readers
Mhm.
and really got my name out there.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
like, and one really important thing about it that's like, I should have mentioned it earlier, but like none of the characters have any names. And that was another way that I kind of put power into my story because I turned it into not just a book about myself, but a more generic middle school story.
Mhm.
Because without the names, then more people can connect it to themselves. Because unfortunately, bullying and these really horrifying events are a serious reality of middle school and high school too, but more so middle school, I feel like.
I totally agree with you on that, no doubt. I totally agree with you. And it sucks that people would even want to um, be such bullies in the first place because there's more to life than bullying. You know, it's not that serious where people feel like that they should be the bullies that they're being. And I just feel like there is more opportunity to do more things when you open your heart and understand people more so than trying to ridicule or judge somebody based on what you think about them because what you think about somebody is not always going to be the truth, you know.
Yeah.
So we want to always be focused more on the truth and not so focused on other things that really don't matter because those things that don't matter aren't of any benefit to you or anyone else. So for those of you who are curious about the book that I'm talking about, this is the book. You don't you don't know her name. It's definitely a great book from what I've been seeing so far, and definitely want to go on Amazon and check it out. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to get to know more about Shanti and how she writes, her writing styles, and to get a chance to understand her. This is awesome, Miss Shanti. This is awesome. And so now you are currently 15 years old now.
Yeah.
That is so awesome and so inspiring. And
Thank you.
I'm an advocate for seeing the youth actually get out and do things. And this right here is definitely something that shows that the youth can do whatever they put their minds to. You can do far more than what society prejudges you on because a lot of society looks at the young people as they're lazy, they don't want to do anything, they don't want to work. But you are an example of how untrue that is. And I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much.
It's a beautiful thing, definitely. So, Shanti, can you um, tell us more about how you overcome the situation with the bullying? Because I have some audience members who have actually gone through some of the same thing, and their stories were a little bit different. So, help us to help other people that have been bullied.
Yeah, so for me, really the only way to overcome it and find myself in like feeling powerful is to speak up about it.
Mhm.
I am not typically one to stay quiet when I'm upset and when I'm being bullied because if I just keep it in and if, anyone who's listening to this who's like currently feels like they're being bullied or is going through something difficult, if you keep it in, don't talk to anyone, it's not going to make it better. But if you speak up, if you tell your parents, someone, a sibling, a friend, some figure in your life that you admire, it will make it better and it will help you.
Mhm.
And speaking up about it also ends up meaning, if you're someone in school, talk to an adult at your school if you can. And sometimes you'll find that those adults will be in more of a place of denial. And
Mhm.
then you could bring your parents in, or you could continue to speak up and let them know, like, hey, this is okay. This is not just middle school or high school or elementary school, whatever they end up saying.
That is awesome. Thank you so
Thank you.
so much for that. And that's some solid advice. And also, if for all of our listeners and viewers out there, if you feel like you can't talk to anyone, by all means, shoot me a DM in any one of my social medias, and I will definitely help you publicly expose the person that is bullying you so that they can stop doing this. Because we have to take a stand for this. We have to do something to create a platform for anti-bullying that will stop all of these bullies in their tracks and either transform them or make them go in another direction, whichever one we choose. And I think that together we can make this happen, no doubt. So, what other hobbies do you have outside of writing?
So I think I enjoy a variety of things. I do really like skateboarding, although I haven't been able to go as much. I like fencing, free running,
Wow.
and it's like a lot of the things that I really enjoy, I haven't gotten to do in a really long time just because of school and stuff, but it doesn't mean like I enjoy them any less. I just really don't get the time to like go anymore. I also like listening to music and taking walks around my neighborhood, and I have two cats that I just love spending time with and playing with. Um, so yeah,
That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
thank you.
That is pretty cool. So I take it that you're actually one of those young people that keeps themselves pretty busy. You pretty
Yeah,
much
definitely.
do all the time. That's pretty cool. I like that. So tell me this, Miss Shanti. What advice do you have for teenagers who have been bullied?
So similar to what I said before, tell someone about it, tell a trusted adult, and don't keep it to yourself. At first, you can try to solve the problem on your own, but that might not work. And if you feel comfortable talking to the bully and telling them to stop, please do it. Please stand up to them, but make sure you're safe and make sure it's something that you think is going to be positive. If this person is physically hurting you, you tell someone, of course, particularly an adult, and also find ways to move yourself from the situation.
Mhm.
I think it's really often, honestly, in most of my cases, the bully is someone that's in my circle of friends, that's in a shared circle of mine. And that's where they have like kind of time in which they can actually hurt me. And in
Mhm.
that case, a way to get out of that situation, whether you can talk to a friend that might know that bully and you guys can try to move away, but also you don't want to try to like make the situation worse. So if talking to a friend could potentially turn more people against you, don't do that. But find ways to kind of avoid the situation, but also avoiding is not, it's not kind of like it's not all you want to do. And of
Yes.
course, also speak up to your administration. If you think your school has a problem with bullying, speak up about it. You can also find more people that agree with you and have also been bullied and go together because you're stronger with more people as opposed to just one person.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That is very important. That is very important that you said that, to go with more people, because some people are afraid to talk to one person, let alone go with more people. So that is definitely solid advice. Definitely appreciate you saying that, no doubt. Um,
Thank you.
so I was also reading where you talked about recommendations for books. What are some recommendations for books for teens?
So, my all-time favorite book, and I think it's a pretty good book for teens. It's also can be slightly disturbing and upsetting. So, like, look up the trigger warnings and everything. But my favorite book is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I know there's the movie is also really, really great.
Okay.
It's just a really powerful book for teens, and it's also like it's very sad, but it's a good book. Um, my other favorite book is The Book Thief, which is a more of a historical book, but it's so well written and it's amazing. And also I love the entire Grishaverse series by Lee Bardugo. So like Shadow and Bone, Six of Crows, those are also some of my favorite books. They're
Uh-huh.
also very great for teen readers. They're very exciting. And again, the characters are written really amazingly and they're just so good.
Awesome. So what do you hope that they learn from these books that you recommend them?
I think there are a lot of really good lessons about from the perks of being a wallflower.
Mhm.
Um, you also like I tend to be a pretty quiet person and I'm kind of reserved sometimes, but you also, you have to experience things. You have to get out there.
Yes,
And you can't like, especially with high school, you can't spend your entire high school years like standing in the corner and
that's
not doing anything.
true. That's true. There's a lot of high school. I remember my high school years. A lot of times in high school, somebody is going to come up to you and try and talk to you. They're going to try and intertwine with you. They're going to try to hang out with you. Someone in high school. There are way too many students in high school. I mean, oh my goodness. In our high school, we probably had about 1,000 students in our high school.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a pretty big place. We had the first, second, and third floors. So it's pretty big, yes. And speaking of, I'm going to go back to something that you talked about when you say your teacher had you perform. My teacher had me perform in eighth grade, one of the poems that I had written. And I was super nervous about that. Like, why are you putting me on blast like this? Why are you doing this? And my teacher was like, just get out there, just get out there and say it, just get out there and say it. He wouldn't give me no explanation or anything, just kept saying, just get out there and say it, get out there and do it. You can do it, you can do it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I get out there on that stage and oh my goodness, one of the most amazing things happened. Once I started, the audience got quiet and everybody was actually listening to me. We probably had at least a good 300 students sitting in the auditorium that day. And oh my goodness, I got a standing ovation after I finished. And that was an exciting, but also scary feeling because I never knew anything about a standing ovation at that time. At least not on my end. I've seen it on TV, but that was it. So, Shanti, do you actually spend a lot of time I'm pretty much sure I know the answer to this right now, but do you spend a lot of time watching TV and things of that nature?
Sometimes I feel like, so I've watched probably not very many new shows in the last 2 years. I like rewatching things. I like watching YouTube, more shorter things because I tend to like, I do really need more TV shows to watch. So like my favorite TV show is Shadow and Bone, which is the adaptation of one of my favorite books. Season 2 came out 2 days ago, and I didn't go to school and I watched the entire season in one day. So I guess sometimes I spend a lot of time watching TV. Other times it's like I will go months without watching like a new TV show.
So you kind of binge watch this time, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Hey, look, I tell you, sometimes you have to do what you can when you can, because you may not get a chance to watch TV after you come up with a new project that may be it for a while.
Yeah.
So you got to do what you can. All right. So let's see. There was another one I was interested in. Okay. So this one, I'm very interested in this one because at such a young age, just knowing that you even talked about this was very amazing to me. So how do you balance school and writing?
Oh yeah. So I think just over the time that I've been writing books, I've gotten quite good at managing my time. Right
Mhm.
now, what I try to do is I try to do about 30 minutes of writing and 30 minutes of schoolwork. Sometimes like 10 minutes of writing, 30 minutes of schoolwork,
Uh,
because I write very quickly. I can whip out 500 words in 10 minutes and then just be done for the day.
so,
So I'd say really it's about finding that balance. And also taking breaks is really important. I am someone who does need downtime,
mhm,
and I think most people are.
mhm,
So once I'm done with my writing and my schoolwork, I still try to save some time to like do something different that's like fun. So often it's like watching TV or reading a book
mhm.
or going for a walk. Because if I'm only writing and doing schoolwork and working on marketing, then I'm gonna burn out a lot quicker.
Yes, yes. So what are some of the triggers that let you know that it's time for you to take a break from your writing?
So it's like if I've been writing for a while, typically like by the end of it, I'll be like only like kind of slowing down a little and being like, I don't like, I'll be overthinking it a little too much. And if I'm overthinking what I'm writing, if I'm like, oh, I don't like this is not good, because, especially in the first draft, then I'll try to step back for maybe 10 minutes, do something else, do some schoolwork, and listen to a song, and I'll come back to it. And also, I have to think about like, the scene I'm going to write.
Mhm.
And then if I have a more clearer picture and I'm not like, as nervous about it, then I just go back. I write the same amount every single day, no matter what.
Okay.
So in some ways, it just become a habit now. It's like I can't go my day without writing. It just
Mhm.
doesn't feel right to me.
Yes, yes, I agree. I totally agree. I have to sit back and write something, whether I'm writing it by hand or typing it out on the computer. I have to sit back and write something every
Yeah.
day. There's a must. So I'm in total agreement with you on that one there. So, um, so walk me through what a typical day is for you at school.
So yeah, I wake up later. I wake up at like 8 and then I go to school. I like have to leave in like a couple minutes and I actually have to rush a little. And when school starts at 8:30, I have creative writing first period, which is very fun. Sometimes I get to write a little during that. Other times we do some assignments. And then I actually write quite a bit during homeroom,
Uh,
typically anywhere from like, 300 to 500 words.
wow.
And that allows me to be usually I do 500 words. That's like half my goal because I write 1,000 words every day.
Mhm.
Then I go to math, which I'm not, I struggle with math. And then I have lunch. I don't usually write during lunch. Instead, I hang out with friends. Then I have biology, and my fourth period is journalism.
Mhm.
I do write, but I usually work on my articles. And then after school, I either get a snack and or I have something, but typically I just go home and I write however much I need to hit that 1,000 words. And then I do my schoolwork, although of course sometimes I try to balance it. It depends. Like if I only have like 200 words to write, I usually do that. And
Uh,
then my schoolwork. Or if like the scene is like really, really exciting, I'll write a little over the amount of time I'm giving myself.
oh, that's pretty cool. It seems like you have a really good balance going on there, no doubt.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So, um, one of the things that I was curious about is what do you do to market your books? What is your process or strategy?
So, of course, I do a lot of interviews, whether on podcasts, radio shows, or just on television. Other than that, I post a lot on TikTok. I have about 50,000 followers on TikTok. I think it's
Okay.
54,000 now.
Oh wow.
And I post mainly about my books, but I also post writing tips and just general things about my story and how I've gotten to where I am. And that really, people do like that. And they like learning. Also, I think like, I don't know, it's fun to hear about other people's books, at least for me.
Uh-huh.
And then I also do a little Instagram, but not as much.
Okay.
I'm trying to learn more about like advertising.
Yes.
And I also, of course, do like book signings and in-person events. And I'm doing a at the beginning of May, I'm going up to the Bay Area for their Festival of Books. I did the
Awesome.
San Diego Festival of Books in August. And I'm
Oh,
probably gonna go to the LA Times Festival of Books, but I don't know if I'm actually gonna um get a booth there because it's a lot of money. And I also there's a lot of authors that are presenting that I really want to see.
awesome.
So
Awesome. That is what's up. I love it. I love it. You are definitely motivated and inspiring, no doubt about that. Like, oh my goodness. At such a young age, you do
thank you.
so much. That is wonderful. That is so wonderful. And then you know how to balance your time. Oh my goodness. How do you learn at such age how to balance time? That is amazing.
It's really just all about practice. Like originally I wasn't too good at it, and then I started to realize like, I started to figure out more about like how much time I had. I really remember in seventh grade, first off, was like the first time I actually started setting my goal of 1,000 words a day. And once I reached that, I found it was a lot easier. And then I ended up like realizing like once school, so there would be like a time and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna write this, and I would write to like 500 words. And then after that, I'd write like after school was done, I'd write my other 500 words. So, like during lunch, I think it was like 500 words and 500 words after. It was
Oh,
pretty quickly. For a while, when I was in seventh, like in the summer between seventh and eighth grade, I
mhm.
would wake up at like 10, 9, 10-ish over the summer, and then I would start writing every day at 11. I don't really do that anymore just because I like to go out for breakfast now.
Gotcha.
But that was a really, really good habit to have for a while.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome. So, if you ever need your parents' help, what do they do to help you get past the obstacle where you need their help?
So typically they'll do like anything they can to help me. However, it's like also I'm starting to learn a lot more about some of these things, and they are sometimes like I'll have to help them just figure out how to help me. Is it that makes any sense?
Yes, I do understand that a lot. I understand that a lot, trust me. Because sometimes I'll ask somebody something and then they'll end up saying, well, try doing this or try doing that. Then I'll be like, the only reason why that doesn't work is because of this. And then they like looking at me like, Well, if you already knew, I say, well, sometimes it takes somebody else's input for you to kind of figure it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. So, um, which grade in school was the most challenging, and how did you overcome dealing with those challenges?
I can give probably three different answers for this.
Okay, no problem.
Um, Fourth grade was the hardest year of elementary school for me. I got bullied by a couple different kids, and I really like I really liked writing. I'd say that was like, that was when I really started finding my love for writing, but I also lost it that year too.
Mhm,
And really the only way to kind of get over it was to move on. These kids would be mean to me. One of them was mean to me because he thought I was a bad writer. Another one, they just were mean to me because I was the girl who was into like quote unquote boy things.
mhm.
And my mom used to tell me that I'd have the last laugh, and I was like, "That's ridiculous. Stop telling me that." And I guarantee I'm laughing now. Sixth grade, of course, because that was the really, really bad year of middle school.
Mhm,
And then also eighth grade was pretty challenging, but it was also I did enjoy most of it. I had a lot of fun.
mhm.
It was also, and my teachers were incredible. It was just a hard year socially and like dealing with all of these things that like from sixth grade that like came back to haunt me.
So, what were some of the things that your parents would say that were or do that were so impactful in helping you to overcome your situations with bullying?
Well, they were always there for whenever I would go meet with my administration. They would go with me. Sometimes during the school day, I would go alone. That's a whole that was very scary and really
And
upsetting. But when they would go with me, I would, obviously have two people at my back, and it was really helpful. And they would just, help me through it.
okay, awesome, awesome. So, did that make you feel a sense of security, like you had a security blanket by your parents actually being there to actually help and aid you in any situation that they possibly could with the bullying?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. The only reason why I ask that is because, a lot of times there are some students who don't actually have their parents there in the situation. I guess they're consumed by their lifestyles, whatever it is that they're doing. And that's tough because when my son, he was in the sixth grade, and I always let people know about this situation. When he was in the sixth grade, he had a friend, and he had just gotten into the sixth grade at that time. And this young guy and him became friends. Well, about 2 weeks into them being friends, the young boy actually went into the restroom, the boys' restroom, and he actually took himself out. And that was due to bullying. And the schools at that time and his parents, neither of them were actually there by the young man's side to help him. So it was a pretty tough time, man. It was very hurtful because I felt really, really bad about that situation. And to this day, I can never really stop thinking about it. Every time I hear about someone being bullied, it concerns me because I don't want to see anyone else go through that such strong type of emotion that you feel like you have to do something like that. And
Yeah.
thank goodness. Does your school now have a anti-bullying policy in place?
So I'm in a new school now, and that new school does have an anti-bullying policy. And towards the end, my middle school did adapt an anti-bullying program. I'm not sure how effective it's going to be. I'm worried that now that I'm not in that school anymore, there's not going to be as many people to stick out, like
Hmm.
not stick out, speak out. Sorry, I'm so tired. I'm worried that someone's not going to speak out.
Hmm.
However, there's the new generation of kids there at the school now, and I really do hope that like there's someone there who's going to realize there's a problem and speak out about it. And I really hope that my school administration doesn't forget about me, and that when someone comes in saying like, "Hey, I'm being bullied," I hope they think about me
Yeah.
and maybe they do something different this time.
Yes, indeed. I hope so. I hope so as well. So at your speaking engagements, Um, do you talk about bullying and how some of the children can actually get help with being bullied?
Usually, it depends on whether or not You Won't Know Her Name is being discussed. If I'm discussing, for example, Never Dying, which is completely different book, then I'll probably not bring it up. However, like, but some if like You Won't Know Her Name is there, even I'll mention it.
Mhm.
The last book signing I did, I briefly just brushed over like what it's about, but then I feel like, that kind of opens the conversation a little more.
Yes.
Um, and of course, like if someone asks at a book festival, I always usually talk about it. When I did the San Diego Festival of Books, I sold quite a few You Won't Know Her Names actually. It
Okay.
was, I think, either my first or second most sold book at the event. And I did get to talk to a lot of people about bullying and just how they felt. I had a lot of parents buy it for their kids starting middle school,
Awesome.
which I wouldn't recommend. Might scare your kids a little, but
So why do you think it would scare them?
it's very dark. I have to admit, should I rewrite it now, it would be a lot darker and a lot more disturbing and a lot more detailed. But
Okay.
it's like a sixth grader could read these poems and realize what is happening and like understand
Mhm.
like what is just everything that's going on. And there are some topics that I would not have known about in sixth grade had it not been for that person.
Yes.
So it's like I really wouldn't recommend it for 11-year-olds. It's like, despite the fact that the characters are 11,
Okay.
it's not for that age.
Uh, what can I say? Well, maybe sometimes people, because they say we are our biggest critics when we're writing. So maybe some people see it a little bit different than the way that you see it. And maybe they're conveying the messages a little bit different, maybe just breaking it down for their children instead of just having them just read it verbatim. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a possibility. Oh my goodness. This is awesome. I am so grateful to have met you, Shanti. You are definitely an inspiration for many children out there. And I hope that all of the children actually get a chance to check out this site. So give us some of your key takeaways, some of the main things or main messages that you would like for children all over the world, teenagers all over the world to actually know not only about you, but about bullying.
So first off, you're never alone in like anything you're going through. There's someone out there who's gonna understand. And I think that's important to remember. For me, when I was in middle school, I felt super alone and isolated. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone thinks of me as a kid who's been bullied. And I mean, I'm sure people, when they saw me might have thought of that, but there's also so much more that, people probably think about when they think about me.
Mhm.
And also, like, of course, like I said, you're not alone. You're not the only one in your school that's been bullied. You're not as much of an outcast as you may think. And
Mhm.
also, this has nothing to do with bullying, but like you're never too old or too young to achieve your dreams. Of course, there are some dreams. It's like, they do take a lot of work. So you can start working on it as a teenager, if you want to like if there's a job you want, start learning about it, start doing things that could potentially make it easier to get that job when you're older.
Mhm.
And like, if you want to write a book, if you want to be an actor, whatever you want to do, start at it young if you feel comfortable. And of course, if you're older and you still have this dream of yours that maybe you just kind of got it, maybe you've had it since you're a child,
Mhm.
and you want to achieve that, go for it. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can still change things.
So true. That is so true. So please tell us the places where we can actually get a chance to interact with you virtually, your websites, social media, things of that nature.
So you can find me first on my website, which is shantihershenson.com. That's ShantiHershenson.com. It's going through a bit of a remodel right now, so
Okay.
some of my like interviews aren't entirely up to date, but if you just Google me, you can find like a lot of my stuff. You can contact me through my website. I tend to respond to a lot of things. I also, if there's a question that like is really, really difficult for me to answer, I might not respond to it. But also if you reach out to me on like Instagram or TikTok, or if you comment on one of my posts and ask for something, I'm more than happy to respond. My Instagram is at Shanti Hershenson and my TikTok is at Shanti Who Writes. So both of those like are good places to reach me. I do a lot of book signings, so if you look me up and you find that I'm doing an event in your area, please come say hi.
Most
And
definitely.
my 13th published book releases on March 25th. So
Awesome,
check it
awesome,
out.
awesome sauce, awesome sauce. So, will you be doing anything in Texas?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right.
I'm trying to kind of expand from California right now, so I'm doing something in the Bay Area, which is more
Okay.
northern. Because so far everything I've done has been like Southern California, and then hopefully maybe I'll probably have a busy summer this summer, but hopefully like next summer or maybe even during the school year I can do a full book tour.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. The reason why I asked is because I'm in Texas. So if I see you have any events going on in Texas, I'm definitely going to reach out to you and check you out. At least I get a chance to meet you in person, not just in video, and
Yeah.
hopefully get to meet your parents too. That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. So, Miss Shanti Hershenson, you have definitely been more than motivational, helpful, and advisory, and definitely a full-blown inspiration to all the teens out here in the world. I am super happy to have finally got a chance to meet you, doing this podcast with you. Thank you so much for joining YTP Entertainment. It has truly been a blessing. So,
Thank you so much for
buddy,
having me.
Shanti Hershey, no problem. Anytime. You can definitely reach out to me. It's no problem. I will always respond back. So, Miss Shanti Hershenson, everybody, please make sure that you're checking her out, social media and her website. Although it's under construction, you're still possibly able to reach out. Please make sure that you reach out to Miss Shanti Hershenson. Thank you so much, Shanti. You have a wonderful day. And please continue to stay motivated and do all the things that you are doing.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Peace and blessings. YTP Entertainment, and we are out of here.